man. Life is storytelling. Everything we do with everybody we interact with is a story. Welcome back to another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. I am your host, Ryan Deemer, and I am happy today to sit down with a young gentleman who is hitting all of his goals and just inspiring to see what he's been doing at such a young age. His name is Dale Sievert. He's from Saline, Michigan. He's only 25 years old. He has a degree in mechanical engineering from Eastern Michigan, works full-time as an engineer, and is doing this nights and weekends with a goal to be full-time sooner than later. Dale, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate you coming in. So tell me a little bit about this. You're younger than most people that have a business that's growing like this. You've got a degree in mechanical engineering. What got you started, and where how did you end up where you are today?
So I grew up on our family farm, so I always had exposure to heavy equipment, doing dirt work and stuff like that. I worked for an excavation company for about 4 or 5 years before and during college. I always knew I wanted to go to college for engineering, mechanical mainly, just because I got so much exposure to stuff like that on the farm growing up. And then in 2019, I really had a passion for doing dirt work and stuff for my job. And so I bought a mini excavator to kind of use around the farm. And from there, it's kind of spiraled upwards to running a business now and trying to go full time doing that eventually here.
Nice. So your path literally started with getting more equipment for the farm.
Yeah.
And then you just had like a little interest to see if other people had a desire to hire you, or did they start asking?
Definitely. Yeah. So I originally got a mini excavator just to did some footers for a barn. We were putting some cement in and do some general work around the farm with it. And then I got all that finished up and I'm like, oh, that went pretty good. I still was able to pull on some of my experience from working for this excavation company before and during college. And I was like, let's try my hand at doing a little bit of side work here and there with the mini. And then from there, it just I was surprised how much work came in and kind of took off from there.
So when you started doing that on the side, did you like set up a business right away, or did you just do it on your own and then set up a business? What was your strategy?
I did a DBA first to start with, just to have something to place the business income under. And then as the business grew, we created an LLC to kind of better separate personal and business stuff. And that was a good decision looking back on it. I probably would have done the LLC sooner if I had known I was going to continue to do this so much. It's definitely a good idea to keep that separate and have a better understanding of what expenses are going towards what and that and such.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, an LLC is really just an extension of you. I mean, the accountant's going to give you a K-9 at the end of the year to show how much money the LLC had made, and then you got to file that on your personal taxes anyway. So it is good, but it allows you to separate your insurance, track all your expenses, write off some more write-offs that you may not get to do as a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
Yeah. We recommend everybody start with an LLC, and then really, Dale, from my experience is as a certain point that you're going to hit a threshold of income that you're going to need to look at starting an S Corp versus an LLC. Because the difference, have you guys talked about the difference between an LLC and an S Corp?
Yeah, I've had this conversation with my CPA I use for my taxes at the end of the year, and he's kind of giving me the rundown of, well, if you're over this certain profit, then it's good to start looking at doing an S Corp.
Did he tell you why?
I think it's about your self-employment taxes, if I believe. If I remember correctly.
As an LLC, whatever money you make goes right to your income.
Yeah.
At the end of the year. So as an S Corp, you can actually pay yourself a wage, a reasonable wage as an operator of this equipment, and make that salary payment every 2 weeks, every month, every week, however you do it. And then quarterly, you can give yourself dividends or bonuses, and you pay less taxes on those dividends. So you're not paying all the back end taxes like you do on a regular payroll. as long as you're maintaining that reasonable wage for yourself. So if you start making $100,000 to $300,000, like you can start saving a substantial amount of money by running it as an S corp versus an LLC.
Yeah.
But until you start hitting thresholds and you quit buying a bunch of, I have to imagine, being 3 years in business, the amount of equipment that you're purchasing, you don't have a lot of profit on the books.
Yeah, we have some, but right now we're trying to reinvest most of what we can back into the business, and that's kind of been my strategy of why I'm still doing this part time. Is I want to be able to grow to a point with equipment and trucks and stuff I need, that where if I go full time, I can basically look at just profit and what my operating costs are, and not have to look at purchasing a ton of equipment at that time.
Yeah. So do you have all the equipment in your business name, or do you still run any of it through your farm for those extra tax benefits being farm?
It's all through the business now.
All through the business now?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The mini excavator I started with, I just sold that. So that was through the farm originally, but that's all gone now. It's all switched over to the business name.
Got it. Because we've worked with some guys in the past that got pretty creative, where the farm owned all the equipment so they could get all the benefits of the farm discounts and all the tax breaks that farms receive.
Yeah.
And they would lease the equipment to their construction company so they could write that off against the income of the business. So it was pretty clever when the guys were telling me how they were setting that up.
Yeah, I've had that discussion also. My CPA he does a lot of businesses similar to mine, and he was talking about ways to mitigate, like if you had liability more, where have a separate company own all of your equipment and then they lease it all to you. And so that you have to be to a certain level to do this. You have to actually show that you're actually making legitimate profit off the leasing the equipment to yourself. But that way, if your company that has a forward-facing exposure got sued, that your equipment's semi-protected behind another company.
Yeah. So we did that when I owned businesses 20 years ago, that the forward-facing business had its own S corp, and then we had LLCs, that the real estate and real property, and those were separated out. So the building was its own entity, equipment was its own entity, and then the front-facing business was its own S corp. It gets to be a bit of a headache keeping track of all that for taxes and all that. I mean, I would never do it again if I didn't have somebody full-time on payroll to help manage it.
Yeah.
It was a lot for me to handle myself, but man, what an intriguing conversation we're having. Especially, it just baffles me that most people at 25 years old still don't even know what they want to do when they grow up, and they're still trying to figure out, how to get out of bed in the morning on time. And here we are discussing S corps, LLCs, and accountants.
Yeah, I think we all struggle getting out of bed sometimes on time, though.
You're absolutely right. I find that the sleep routine at night is more important than the morning routine, because it doesn't matter how hard you fight it in the morning. If you didn't have a good routine to go to bed and make sure you get your 6, 7, 8 hours sleep, you're just fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
All right. So back to you, man. So you're at Eastern Michigan. Did you live on campus or did you commute from home?
I commuted. That was a big reason I went there. It's fairly close to our family farm. So I commuted from there, which was a good deal.
So you're going full-time to be a mechanical engineering grad.
Yeah.
Working part-time at an excavation company.
Yeah. And then sophomore year, I went and got a co-op at the company I'm working at currently for engineering.
Nice. And you're helping around the family farm.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say free time was limited?
Definitely.
The sacrifice to get what you want, man. You can't have it all. So you started a co-op with a company in your sophomore year of college. What company is that, and what are you doing?
It's Yazaki, North America. So we do wiring harnesses for the Bid 3 mainly. We do a wide range of stuff, but mainly what I work on is connector design. So we do all like the levers on the connectors, CPAs, and all the design of those connectors, which is pretty mechanically hands-on. And actually, it's really helpful. I work on so much equipment because I can take a lot of in-field knowledge and apply it to our designs, which has been a big benefit.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure it helps you with your equipment too, with your business.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to kind of track down hydraulic lines and a pump here and there, but when you get into the wiring, it's a whole new ball game. And most guys, it's above my pay grade. I know that. So to have that skill set, it's got to be great when you're in the field and you need it.
Yeah. I've used it a couple of times.
And you're still with Yasaki today?
That's correct. Yeah.
And what's your plan with them? How long? What's your goal to be full time working for yourself and no longer punching a clock for them?
I'd like to. That's kind of I've been trying to get towards that goal of I want to be able to pay myself a decent salary to be when I go full time in my business. So I'm not sure exactly what the time frame looks like. I'm hoping like a year or two to get there. Once I'm not putting as much money into the business for equipment and getting capitalized, then it'll be a lot easier to look at doing that.
I got you. So we always had a saying with guys that when you get to a certain precipice or an idea of like we're almost there, I just got to get a few more thousand or another 10 or 20,000 a year and I can quit this job and go full time. I always say that's the moment you should actually make the decision and do it, and we call it burning the boats. By getting rid of your day job, you have no backup plan. So success is a must.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's that little bit of trigger you need to just dedicate a little bit more time or find some more efficiencies or squeeze out some more profits that you just don't focus on because it's not necessary when you have both businesses or you have the job and the business.
Yeah. I've listened to some interesting podcasts from some other people about one individual is running a fairly large excavation business. He had, I think, 5 employees, but he still worked a day job too. And it was very interesting. The fact reason he chose to do that, and surprisingly, his employees were completely fine with it because they felt they got to have leadership over the work they're doing. And then he had a day job. It was more relaxed than what I'm doing for a day job, but it was interesting to hear his perspective on that too. It's I always listen to other podcasts, getting their feedback on what people starting up have done to be successful. And
yeah,
it's interesting.
And to me, that really comes down to leadership and training and having some processes in place. Most guys that I work with, they want yes men. Hey, do it this way. Why, I want this done a specific way and I want it that way. Where in reality, you need to get your team involved in that process and thinking like you and turn that into training moments. So that way you can walk away. And even as a full-time business owner, you're going to have to walk away to meet with the CPA, meet with the attorney, go do estimates or bids, all that stuff where your team is eventually going to have to work on their own. And if you don't train them in advance for that and get them to be part of your team and your vision and see your culture and core values, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's kind of something I've been thinking about also. There's a lot of people who are owner operators for the lifetime of their business, where they're always direct involvement on site and everything. My goal long term is to have it so I can have crew leaders who can go out and manage certain projects, and I can kind of run more of the day-to-day business operation behind the scenes, and kind of that way I can grow it into more of a business than just something looking at I'm an owner operator.
Yeah, we always call it owning a business versus having a job with a lot of expenses.
Yeah.
Because the equipment, the maintenance, none of it's cheap.
No.
And when those guys go out there and they bid a specific hourly rate and they want to make this much an hour, and I'm like, all you have is a job. Like if you don't work, you don't make $1. If you go on vacation, business is shut down.
Yeah.
That's not a business. That's just a job.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love your vision of that. I always tell guys, especially like yourself, especially being younger and owning the business yourself, even when you do jobs by yourself, take the first 5 minutes of the day and outline the job step by step and set some goals for the day as if you were talking to a team, and do the same thing at the end of the day. Like we call them tailgate talks. Just stand by the truck and review the day. What went right? What were the wins? What could I have improved on? Did any unforeseen issues come up during the day? By doing that, even for yourself, when you start hiring a team, it's already part of your daily habit.
Yeah.
So now your training process is already instilled and you're not trying to create something new. You're not trying to create a new habit for yourself while learning a new way to teach your team. It's already built.
That's a good idea. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've worked with guys and like they were itching because I would tell them to take 20 minutes in the morning and do a overview layout plan, and they would be just itching because they're like, we're not getting any work done. And then they'd start the day and some of the team might fumble a little bit on some new tasks because they do a lot of fencing and concrete pouring.
Okay.
He's like, yeah, but by 10 a.m., there was no lack of communication. The direction was set. And between 10 and 3, we accomplished more than we would have on a normal day. So it's that whole slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So a little slow start to the day to have a smooth day, and then the smooth day actually ends up being faster than a normal day.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely get that. I always like when I'm driving to the site, I'm always saying about what's my goal for today? What am I trying to, especially if it's like a multi-day project. I'm like, what is my goal to get done today? And then if I hit that target, then that's kind of what I base off. And then it's always something you're thinking about when you're driving back. Well, what went wrong today?
Yeah, it is. And I think that's the biggest gap in leadership with most business owners is that you spend all this time, whether it be at night, in the morning, in the truck, a week in advance, thinking about these jobs. And then when the people that show up to do the job start thinking about it for the first time that day, we get frustrated that they don't know what our plan is, or they don't have a plan themselves. Like we just do a poor job of communicating the thoughts we've had to them. So like, we've been thinking about it for 3 days. This is the first time he's hearing it.
Yeah.
So it is making sure that you get everybody involved as you grow a team would be, you can never over communicate when you own a business.
Yeah. I definitely did benefits of doing that, especially just start doing it early. So you're basically practicing, getting ready to be telling that to a team.
Yeah. I mean, like, so when we started Skid Steer Nation, like I had read this book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and it basically talks about the franchise model and why franchises are successful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just setting up all these little processes and systems so that anybody can do it. But he also talks about having like position agreements for every major position at your company. So like for you, a bookkeeper, a marketing director, an estimator, an operator, all those are key positions that you need to run a business. Yeah. Now you wear all those hats yourself currently, but as you grow this business, those positions are going to need to be filled. So like we actually wrote out position agreements for all the key positions I needed for my business. And it didn't matter if I had 7 of the 9, we had it laid out, but it makes hiring and understanding the goals. And it allowed me to time block my time better. Like, all right, from 9 to 11, I have got to work on marketing my business.
Yeah.
Because this needs to be done. And then we knew that. So as we started hiring like a creative director, I already had an idea. We already had an agreement kind of made up of like what that work entailed, what his responsibilities were. And there was just no room there was no gray area.
That's a really good idea. Because that way if you're hiring someone to do a certain job, you already have an idea. It's like kind of like if you're going to work for a bigger company and they're hiring you on as, like you're saying, like a creative director, advertising, they already have a blueprint on what they want you to do. And so I like that idea. That's really good.
Yeah. So like at one point, like I said, like we had 7 or 8 position agreements and I was like, I'm doing 90% of these. But as we started growing the team and I started handing off back end invoicing and shipping, like all of that was already laid out. So now I just take it off my plate. I work with her. The transition was really smooth and seamless. I had wrote out the steps for multiple things. So when I did hand it off to her, she had knowledge in a playbook that she could refer back to. And it really minimized the amount of questions she had for me moving forward. Yeah, so I always use the example, like we did a big Black Friday sale a couple of years ago, and we were trying out a new shipping service with FedEx. So the FedEx, we had to make our labels ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I went in there and spent like an hour and a half, and I did step by step how to create shipping labels, where to save them, how to get them so we can print them off efficiently. And like I always tell people, like step 1 was go to www.fedex.com. Like you don't skip anything. Like write it for a 4th grader.
Yeah.
And I filled these out. We spent 30 minutes going over them. We had like 150 labels to make that weekend. They asked me 0 questions.
Yeah, that's perfect. That means good leadership up front versus.
It was just the process. We had it all laid out. They couldn't make it, like there was no room for error. So that hour and a half of me making that playbook for them saved me, I don't know how many hours of having to make the FedEx labels myself, because I would have gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, this is frustrating. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a big proponent of investing the time up front on tasks or jobs that will continually give me a residual, whether it be cash or time.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, I like that.
So if something takes you 4 hours to do, just take the 4 hours and do it right, because then hopefully you'll never have to do it again.
Yeah.
So that's
a good thought.
Yeah. So where are you at right now with your business?
Right now we did this year about about 70 jobs, invoice separate jobs. So that was it was quite a bit more than we planned for doing income wise, with doing a little bit less work. So last year in 2021, I think we had a few more billable jobs, maybe around 80, 90, but we had a little bit less income off of that, or profit off of that. And so this year we did a few less jobs, but I've been working on our pricing model kind of throughout the year to figure out what works best for us. And it definitely paid off at the end of the year, because we were able to do more profit, but less jobs, and use less diesel this year, which was a big thing for us because price of diesel were way up. So kind of looking at that, how to refine services we're offering, our pricing scale and everything was really helpful. And I think that'll be going forward, now that I have this kind of blueprint figured out for what we need for pricing jobs. It'll be a lot simpler, especially if I had another person come on and estimate. It's something I could teach them. Well, here's our scale to estimate off of, basically, and then they could go from there.
So is your whole change in business this year just because of your pricing structure, or did you get more strategic going after certain services and specific types of work?
Definitely, we kind of focused on more specific types of work. I was looking at more broader projects previously, like broader range of projects for types of work. And this year, we kind of focused more on the land clearing, driveways, and we did quite a few yard grading jobs this year for new yard installs. But that was kind of our three main focus. And then towards this last quarter year, we picked up doing fencing, which would be a new addition going forward. But that was a good thing to pick up too. There's some larger projects we can fill in, or we had a lot of add-on stuff when we did mulching. We could do some fencing for livestock also.
So most of the fencing is agricultural fencing, or is it residential?
It's all agricultural. We do stuff like gardens too, if someone wants a small garden in their backyard, but it's agricultural type fencing, wood post, different types of wire we can put up, but all wood post style.
Yep. Got it. What's your focus going into 2023? Is there a specific service that you want to really, like, do you have a percentage breakout of how you want your business to run next year?
I wouldn't say we have a percentage breakout, but our main focus is probably going to be lane clearing going forward, and fencing also. Will probably be the fencing. That's still something where I'm working on building our pricing for, to see exactly how it's going to play out. But try to focus on that more, but probably lane clearing will be our big one. Try and get some more right of way clearing work going next year also. That was our main focus this year, probably, was lane clearing also, and it worked out good for us.
Mm-hmm. Were you doing a lot of work for individual property owners, or did you get a contract with a company or utilities, or what was your focus on land clearing?
So we have I would say the majority of separate invoice jobs for land clearing are for residential, or some commercial for businesses. But then we picked up a contract also this year for a couple different areas for a gas company doing pipeline right-of-way clearing, that's been a great relationship we've been building with the gas company. So we have a little bit more going forward with them next year, and hoping to expand upon our offerings to them.
So how does a part-time 25-year-old land service company get a contract with a gas company?
It's actually interesting. I didn't even reach out to them looking for the work. We were doing some mulching for a property down in Adrian, and one of their site crew guys came out to mark the gas utility line for the homeowner. And we try to make our setup on site look professional. Like, we have a truck that's done up with decals, and we have all DOT numbers. So it looks like, if you just drove by, it looks like we're a full-time business. It doesn't look like we're a weekend kind of warrior style business. And they were just super impressed with it, and left their card actually with the homeowner, and said, hey, the gas company is here, wanted me to give you his card. So I gave him a call, and from there we went and looked at the jobs, and got a contract on it.
So you're telling me that branding and personal appearance is what got you in the door initially with that company.
And quality of work. So they could see the area we were mulching, and we always made sure we're making it look. That's the big thing. Something I've been trying to work on better is how to kind of show what our business does differently than other businesses offering the same services. So we always try to offer, and if we're doing mulching, we try to leave the best finish we can possible. We trim around the trees. Don't leave large sticks. If there's something that we couldn't mulch up, we'll take a grapple and remove it off the site. Or if they want it for firewood, just a large log, we'll move it over to the side and cut it into firewood lengths for them. So we try to leave everything looking nice. And so having a good appearance to the site when we're done and a good company looking appearance. And that was really what helped us get this contract.
Nice. Now, do you write all that stuff in your estimate as far as like trimming around the trees and like piling wood for either brush pile burning or firewood? Or how do you relay all that to your customer?
So when we do the final walkthrough where they sign off on our estimate, we go over all that stuff. So we'll trim around the trees, and if there's large logs we can't mulch up that we need to remove from the site, then we'll put that in our estimate. But if it's something we're just piling them on our property for them, then we'll just have a verbal discussion about that.
Okay, so you don't write any of that into your estimate?
No, not really.
So I recommend you start adding all that into your estimate.
Yeah.
Anything that you're going to do, and regardless, add it to your estimate, because it's called value stacking. You're creating so much value in that estimate that the number at the bottom of the page just seems smaller.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And we've had a lot of guys actually win bids at a higher price than their competitors because of the estimate they provided the customer. Well, the other company didn't say they were going to trim around the trees, or the other company didn't say that they would pull out the large logs. And I want all that out of there, so I'm willing to go with you. And it's just, we write estimates for ourselves, and we need to make sure that we make it customer centric. Like the customer is the center should be of everything we do, because without them, we don't make any money.
Yeah, I that's definitely a really good thought. I have had that true where I was hired a bid than our company for doing a driveway repair and putting down new gravel. We actually went through and we put down, we're going to use road fabric in certain areas and how much feet we're going to use. And I laid out exactly how many tons of gravel we're going to use. And we came in a little bit higher than our company, but they didn't lay out at all how much gravel they're going to use. And so the customer ended up going with us because they felt assured about what we were actually providing them.
Yeah. And you can tell them that all in person, but one, they're going to forget some of the stuff you tell them.
Yeah.
You might forget to tell them something because you're thinking about 8 other things on the project. And if they get other bids, they're going to look at them side by side.
Yeah.
So I always tell everybody, write it in the estimate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Do you do a guarantee at all for your work?
Yeah. It depends on what we're offering, but if we're doing like driveways or we're doing drainage work, we put guarantees in there that if we need to come back and touch it up, then we'll do that.
Are they verbal or are they written in your estimate?
Those are written in the estimate.
Perfect. Good deal. So focus on land clearing next year. More residential / agricultural, more contracts with utilities. Where's your vision going?
Hopefully all three. I like to have a good, especially not knowing exactly what the economy will look like going forward. I like to have kind of work from all three of those segments because some are more affected by economic changes. It seems like a lot of residential stuff, if the economy is not doing as good, there's not as much work coming in from that. But more on your utility side, a lot of that work has to be done. So we try to keep a good spread of what we got coming in from each one.
Yeah. And same with agriculture. I mean, if they need a pasture, they need a pasture. If they need new fence, they need new fence. The economy might affect it a little bit, but it doesn't affect it anywhere near as much as residential work.
Yeah. We find a lot of our fencing we do currently ends up for horse fences, which is a little bit more impacted, I think, by economy. Hopefully we'll expand more into just doing like pasture fencing for cows and stuff like that. But
Okay.
that's we've been trying to increase the size of fencing we can offer, like how many acres we're going with fencing in. So that's something we're working, trying to get our business more streamlined for that next year.
Nice. I like it. I like it. So we've been talking about your business, your kind of vision for next year. And I noticed on your Facebook profile that you recently got engaged this summer.
Yep.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
How does the family mix into this? Are you guys getting married sooner, or is it going to wait a few years?
Yeah, we're getting married this in 2023 in the summer. So that's I try not to let too much personal stuff affect, or like business affect personal stuff. You have a good balance of both, and that's something that try to make sure I have enough free time along to spend quality time with loved ones, and especially during the holidays and stuff. Like this year, we shut down a little bit earlier than we did previous years. It was a good idea. I mean, it's not fun operating, getting your equipment out when it's this cold and having to preheat everything and burn extra diesel. So it worked out good. And I think the little bit of extra income that I made during like holiday times working, it's better to have that downtime and reflect on stuff and take time to relax. And
recharge your batteries, spend it with family. And there's a lot to be said about that whole recharge period.
And we're so busy during the busy part of the year, going, that it's good to take, when you can take time to do it, to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So married this year, how quick is the conversation of children going to come up?
We've discussed that some, probably within the year after we get married, sometime in that time frame.
Awesome. Is that why leaving your full-time job is kind of a 2-year plan, so that you're not trying to balance a full-time job, a family, and an excavation company?
I was not necessarily. Definitely down the road want to have more time, so I'm not as busy during the day. I can bring my business into doing it during the day more, and then having to do it on weekends. But yeah, partially, but not completely.
Got it. And then I also found out that, I'm assuming you run an FAE head from the posts that I saw on your Facebook profile.
Yep, that's correct.
And it looks like they ran a contest this last year. Tell us about the contest and how you ended up getting selected second place.
Yeah, so FAE's been they've been a great company for reaching out with their marketing team to me. They've shared info with me back and forth if I needed stuff for marketing information about benefits of forestry mulching. So I've always kept an open relationship with them. And I saw this contest come out, and the contest that was about how does the forestry mulching head they provide, and mainly the services I provide the company, help my customers. And so I wrote an essay about how our offerings have been improved using their FAE head product. And from there, they selected winners based off an essay. And I was surprised that we got second place on that, especially being a small operator. But it was a really cool experience.
Nice. And what does second place get in a contest like that?
We got some little like swag goodies from them, and got Yeti cooler that says FAE. And then we have they'll be coming out to a site, I think probably beginning 2023 here, to do a video of us using their equipment and trying to give a talk about our business operations and how our business has been doing.
Nice. That's awesome. So the resources you're telling me about that they provide to you, about the benefits of land clearing and brush removal and all of that, do you actually provide that to your customers?
Yeah, so that's something we've been working on. So we're going to be incorporating that into our website here soon, hopefully. But as of right now, I include like high level information from the data they gave us in brochures we hand out. So we have benefits of forestry mulching in there, talking about reduce soil erosion, returning the organic material back to soil, not having to have burn piles and such. So we'll be incorporating more of those studies in a broader context in our website coming here shortly. But right now, we provide it in a brochure to our customers.
Nice. And who made your brochure?
I did.
I love it. What did you use to make your brochure?
I think I just used either Word or PowerPoint. I recruited that too.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of guys that, they want to have the brochures and they want to have, do you do case studies at all?
That's not yet. That's something we need to do more of. We do lay out like before and after projects in our brochures to kind of show the differences, but that's something I want to do forward, look more of a case study on individual projects and how they apply to a customer going forward.
Yeah. I tell every business owner I know, I'm like, you don't have to be good at making all that stuff. All you have to do is be good at writing out the bullet points of the pros, the cons, the problem, the solution.
Yeah.
And then have some photos, because you can go to like Upworks or Fiverr or a myriad of online freelance websites and find somebody to take your images, your logo, and all of your pros and cons and make you a brochure.
Yeah.
I think every business owner should have something to hand and leave with the customer. And I'm a big proponent of case studies. So like a case study is basically just showing work that you've done for other customers, and you lay out the problem that customer had. The problem is over on the left, the results over on the right, and there's a bridge that connects the two. So you have the problem on the left, the journey over the bridge that you take the customer to get to the end result, and with some before and after photos. And if you start getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those for land clearing, same with some fencing.
Yeah.
When you start handing those to customers with your estimate, they're like, well, this is the guy for land clearing. This is what he does.
Yeah.
And it just builds that trust that it would take hours of talking with him to develop, and you can build it by handing him sheets of paper.
Yeah. Right now we just include like before and after, and then I do a verbal explanation of how we achieve those results. But that's definitely something I want to incorporate into like a bullet points or kind of story they can follow reading themselves on a brochure.
Yeah. And for the people that don't like typing at all, and you're like, the idea of sitting down and making any bullet, like what was the problem and what was the solution? Just record yourself and ask yourself the questions of like, all right, the customer called me because he was having XYZ problems. This was the process I walked him through. This was the problem areas of the project. This was the idea we came up with to get the solution he needed. This was his result at the end, and this is how he felt about it. Just record all that. You can literally send that recording to the guy at Fiverr or Upworks, and he can pull the information out of it, and you don't have to type a thing.
That's really cool.
So yeah. I mean, just all you're doing is just making a voice note, just like no different than like a voice text message.
Yeah.
But as long as you're descriptive enough and you have enough of those details in that, you don't have to sit at a computer and stare at a blank screen wondering what to write.
Yeah.
So that's part of my creative process. When I'll block out like 2 hours to make content for something, and I'll sit down and I'll pull the computer up, and I'm just like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
I got nothing at all. So I'll just start recording myself talking about the problem that I'm trying to solve, and I'll just work through it and work through it and work through it. And eventually my mind gets moving to the point where I can start typing. And then as I'm typing, I'm like, what did I say about that? And then I can go back to that recording and rewind it and go, yep, that's what it was. And then I can it just helps me stay in that state of, I call it flow. It's no different than when you're in the machine and you're like that first 20 minutes of getting started land clearing. It's like, it's kind of cumbersome. You got to fight through it. And then you hit that zone where everything's just butter and smooth and you're moving. So that's like your state of flow. It's the same way for me. So I find voice notes to be very, very beneficial to me.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's cool too. If you can send it over and they'll put everything together, especially if you have limited time. That's a really good way to do it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's limited time, and other times it's just limited skill set or resources. Like I'm better at computer work than most excavation company owners are.
Yeah.
Well, they're way better at doing excavation work than I am. I can fumble through some projects. We've got the skid steer and the attachments. We do some work, but I mean, I'm not a contractor by nature.
Yeah.
In my philosophy, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. I remember being a kid and like not being very good at math. And my mom would just force me to sit down and like, you're going to get better at math. You're going to get better at math. In my philosophy, as I've gotten older, is what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? And how do I double the amount of time I have available for doing that by outsourcing the things I'm not good at?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I would say I was probably not very good at math either. or a lot of like, I wasn't like, didn't just have instant ability to do a lot of like the stuff I had to do in engineering school. Like a lot of the stuff, I mean, it was more challenging, but I like to, if it's something I don't know how to do yet, or like a math or thermodynamics or whatever we were doing, I like to sit down and just really crunch and work on it. And then I like to add those skill sets on, I guess, is kind of how I look at it. And maybe it's still because I'm younger and I like to try to take on that challenge. But as of right now, I try to, if there's something I don't know, like, it's like working on some coding stuff for a website, I like to work on that, try to learn that stuff.
Yeah. And I do enjoy I have a very high level of curiosity, and I do like to learn new skills or new areas of things. There's certain times that I'm like bookkeeping, for instance,
Yeah.
tracking daily receipts and categorizing what category the fuel goes in and where this expense goes, and managing all of that. It's tedious and mind numbing to me, and it puts me in a bad mood.
Yep.
So I did that when I owned businesses in my 20s. Like I'm like, I'm gonna get good at this. I have to get better at this. I'm terrible at it. And now when we started Skid Steer Nation, like it was the first job I hired. I'm like, all right, here's what I need. Here's what I'm not like. Here's what I need for me to be successful as a business owner. Can you meet all of these criteria? And it was the first job I got rid of off my plate. So I don't spend 10 minutes a week doing bookkeeping.
Yeah.
I got to take photos of receipts for her. And we figured out softwares that make life easier for me and for her. But I just know my limitations in that. And I'm never going to be good at it because I don't like doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example for it, because that's something I know how to do the Excel and go through and do it all, but it's not something I enjoy doing.
Right.
And
But I love looking at the reports.
yeah, yeah. But it's just going through and entering all those numbers over and over and over, and then dividing it up is, yeah, something like that where you can do it, but you're not necessarily attuned to doing that is really good to try to find another source to have someone help you with that.
Yeah, because we just can't be good at everything.
No.
We just can't. So it's just I've just found, okay, what am I not good at? Do I want to be better at it? And would I enjoy doing this work? Or is it just like mind-numbingly, painstakingly hurtful and boring?
Yeah.
So like even building some of our landing pages and some of our back-end website stuff, the way that those people's minds work on like, hey, you can make this, and when this triggers that, and this tag hits this person goes here, and this, I can't, I can follow it on a whiteboard, but I can't follow it on the computer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm banging my head against the wall. So I'm just going to hire this out. I'm going to whiteboard out what I want the flow to be. And I know the process I want to happen, but I don't need to know the mechanics of each step. I just need to know step A leads to step 2 to step 3. So it's just another example of me. Like I just got to find someone else to do that work for me.
I think that's important too with growing a business, is you need to be able to let go of the control over some of that stuff and trust other people that they'll make it happen and achieve like what your dream is for it. They'll be able to achieve that and get it done, but you don't actually have to be there doing the whole thing the whole time.
Yeah, I agree. And then from your experience being just, you grew up on the farm and you've had a business for a few years now. From your experience, when you ask somebody for advice or for help, and I don't mean financial help, but people are programmed, I've found, they want to help you. Have you experienced anything similar to that?
Yeah, I think most people are definitely like have a good heart, and they want to be able to help you and help you be successful, or even if it's just like a general question about something, that most people want to be helpful about it.
Yeah. What I've also found is that specifically men, we love helping. Man, we hate asking for help.
That's definitely true sometimes.
I mean, I'm the first person to ask my buddies, how can I help?
Yeah.
And I'm the last person to let them know that I need help with a project or something at home or any other area of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree about that.
That was a focus for me in 2022. So like my father was ill and we ended up putting him in hospice, and I was away more than I was home. They lived 3 hours away. So I was actually living at my parents' house 4 or 5 days a week. And from January to August, I had spent more nights in their home than I had in my own home.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point that I had to ask for help for mowing the grass.
Yeah.
I mean, from little things to large things, I needed help getting orders shipped for the business. And it was it was hard and frustrating that I had to ask for help. But over time, I kept seeing like all these people, they're inspired by what I'm doing, and like they love being in my circle, and I love being in theirs, and they want to help me. And when I changed my mindset and started asking for help and being appreciative of that and not kicking myself that I needed the help,
Mhm.
it was awesome, man. It was an awesome experience to be able to share part of what I do on a daily basis with those closest to me, family and friends.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely is. It's good to be able to do that too, and let go of some of that, all the burden you have upon yourself, and have other people help with it.
Yeah. So that's one of my goals and one of my focuses for 2023 actually is to be better at asking for help and guidance and assistance.
Yeah, that's definitely a good goal.
So your business now, how are you going to grow it next year? Like you've got the buckets for the type of work that you want to do. Now,
Yeah.
how are you going to attract the right customers to there?
We do like in terms of getting the work come in, we do some advertising as we need to on mainly social media, trying to get it come in. We've been having more word of mouth from existing customers and neighbors and stuff like that, which I think that's kind of a good sign that you're doing well, is if you can get word of mouth referrals to your business. So trying to expand upon that, and just kind of see, I guess, just see how the year goes. There's only so much you can control with how it goes, how it's going. But I think as long as I put effort into making sure we have a good forward-facing company that appear that's professional to customers, and um, we can get there with our business going forward and get more clients coming in.
Nice. But this is kind of ties right into what we just talked about with asking for help. But do you have a referral program? Do you ask for referrals?
I don't. No.
Why not?
I don't know. It's just that's a good. It's not something I haven't thought about that too much as being a good way to get more work coming in. But that is a really good idea.
Yeah, and I've actually found, and people look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them this, but I've actually found when I ask for referrals, like a customer buys an attachment from Skid Steer Nation, and I
Mhm.
work with them and talk to them about that, I'll ask them if they know anyone else in the market that I could help out before they even receive their attachment.
Yeah,
So I'm asking, like, no different than you. Like when somebody signs your bid, that's when I would be asking for a referral
yeah, that's a good idea.
because they're
That's-
excited to work with you. Everything's going well. Like, and you're asking, hey, do you know anyone else? And sometimes, especially I found on smaller jobs, when I do that, I could also say, well, if one of your neighbors or friends nearby need a similar service, driveway graded, a little gravel brought in, we can stack all these like in a same 1 or 2 days.
Yeah,
Which means I don't have to bring my equipment numerous times, so I can share that savings with you and your neighbors.
yeah,
And that has worked really well for us too, especially on the smaller type jobs where it only takes you 2, 3, 4 hours. So we can stack a second job or a third job on that same day in the same vicinity. We're not driving all over the county.
we do. We definitely do some of that with our on the farm when we deliver hay and stuff. If we have a hay customer and they get their neighbors to buy some hay also, we'll help kind of divide up that delivery cost because we're going to the same area and taking more products.
Yeah.
Definitely did something I should apply to the business too.
Yeah. I think my other word of advice I tell everyone is there's a lot of great businesses with great examples on every area of your business: marketing, referrals, sales techniques, personal branding, that aren't in excavation services,
Hmm.
but you can still apply their principles and their plan to your business.
Yeah,
So we have that private community on Facebook, Skid Steer Nation Community Private Group. And when I first started that, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to grow it. And it just kind of sat between 50 and 100 members for 6 months. And finally, I watched a guy filling his sales calendar for sales. And I watched his process of how he had his team connect with people on social media platforms, ask them a few questions, and then invite them to a sales call. And I
yeah,
was like, I could use that same technique, but not for sales. So we had our team, we trained them to connect with excavation land company service owners, introduce them to Skid Steer Nation, and invite them to join our group.
Yeah.
So we took the technique, what they were using for sales, and applied it to just growing a private community of skid steer owners or company owners. And that group went from 5,200 to 2,000 in a few months. And now that 18 months later, we're at 26,000 members. And we actually don't even have to promote it anymore because there's so many people in there, Facebook's showing it to people. So now our job is to manage that we have the right people in the group. So our focus has shifted to what we do with the group. But I don't think we would have ever got that momentum if I wouldn't have applied that messaging strategy to the group growth.
Yeah, that is a really good idea. And I think that's a big benefit we have now for businesses is the ability to leverage a lot of social media type of connecting to customers to have a more than just a business, but have a brand or an offering and kind of talk about maybe you do a post or something that's not even about, hey, I'm doing this service, but you're talking about how can a customer help maintain something that's done or their own yards, just reaching out to them and getting like, I see that more becoming a thing with some of the land clearing pages that I follow on Instagram and stuff. Like they'll talk about how to do good property maintenance, and they're not even trying to sell the service necessarily. They're just sharing the information on their page to create that relationship with customers in our area and build their brand.
Yeah. So Gary Vee always says, give, ask. Like if you're not giving useful information for free, why should you be asking them for anything?
Yeah.
So you need to create that. So and again, making it customer focused and not about ourselves. So like a lot of times we post on Facebook, hey, we just did this job, call if you need anything cleared. Our goal of that was to generate more business for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Where if we would have actually talked about the customer's problem, how we solved it. Hey, if you have a similar issue on your property, you can try steps ABC. Now we're giving them information.
Yeah.
Which just builds that relationship. So eventually they'll come to us, or we can eventually ask them for that work down the road.
Yeah, and that is a really good strategy to kind of promote the business and not just promote the work.
Yeah. It's like for you, especially with doing a lot of residential type land clearing, I would do a short video before you start doing the work and right after you finish doing the work. I'm talking like 30 seconds of each. 30 seconds outlining the problem, what the customer's facing, 30 seconds finished, what the benefits of the project were, and just make it educational with no intention of sales.
That's a good idea. I definitely like the idea because that's one of our struggles has been how do we if we have a customer that is unsure about the type of, like, let's say they drive by a site that was forced mulched by another company and it doesn't look very good. One of our struggles has been how do we communicate that what we're offering to them is going to be a better product. And it's really easy if you meet with the customer to show them pictures and discuss with them, but I want to try to figure out a strategy of how to do this like virtually or not even have to have direct contact with that customer. Maybe it's something we can put on our website or social medias to teach them what we're doing.
So when I learned this statistic, I about fell out of my chair, but only 5% of the business you guys generate or any business generates comes from the initial meeting and the first contact. 50% of your business comes 6 months after somebody's been introduced to you.
Interesting.
So we had a guy in Texas who was doing these educational videos on grubbing mesquite trees and mulching and land clearing. And I can't tell you, like he did it and like with it seemed like he was getting no return on investment. Nobody was calling. And then eventually like 4, 5, 6 months later, people started calling him saying, yeah, I need you to come look at this. And when he'd meet with them, they would tell him, yeah, I've been watching your videos on Facebook for the last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
But again, it's your first meeting with the customer, but it's not the customer's first meeting with you.
Yeah, we haven't done videos like that, but I think that would be a really good strategy for us going forward to try doing some of those on there.
Yeah. And then I always tell you too, like there's no rhyme or reason to it, but incorporate just some lifestyle posts into your business also. Whether it be you pressure washing the equipment or fooling around with your fiance or just anything that isn't asking for work or being, hey, here's how you treat this problem, because people like that natural touch
Yep.
of you too.
Yeah, I definitely agree about that. That having showing what the business is. I see that with the local lawn care company by us. They do a lot of posts just showing their crew together, and they did a holiday photo shoot, and they just shared that, like not asking for work, but
Yep.
I think it was cool to see that they did that because it shares there's more a family there with the business and everything than just they're in it for the profit.
So what it shows is your core values and your beliefs, and people like working with like-minded people.
Yeah.
So those core values and beliefs shine through. People see that. They're like, oh, that's so sweet. Look how much fun the crew's having. I like that. They're more prone to call you than a company they just found in the phone book or on Google.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
I just showed my age there. I just said the phone book.
I remember getting the phone book as a kid in the plastic bag, the little mailbox. And
yeah, I remember when I bought my first business, it was 20 years ago. And like the yellow page people were like, you need an ad in the yellow pages. And now I'm like, I don't even think anyone sells the yellow pages. I haven't seen anything about it forever. So we've been talking for quite a while. I want to be respectful of your time. So one of the questions that you kind of had written down and wanted to talk about, I think we covered it as far as educational videos and being more promotional and all that. But like you asked, how do you let customers know that your services are what they need when the competition leaves a bad taste in their mouth?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was trying to touch on there is when we meet with that customer, we can explain it well in person and show them pictures. But I want a way to do that without actually having an interaction with them. So if they, like I was saying, social media or a website, and I think a video that you suggested would be a really good way to communicate that to them, showing that before and the solution to the problem and how we got there.
So my two recommendations for you: one, the educational type content and the little videos. And even if you don't have time to shoot a video, make sure you get the good photos and then type out problem solution. And then the second one is like when you start adding to your website, the first thing I would do, like let's say you break that into fencing and land clearing.
Mm-hmm.
I would, before you start writing what land clearing is and the benefits of this and how this helps you get that, I would start with 3 to 5 customers you've done work for, before and after photos, problem they were having, solution that they gained from that, and almost build case studies on the website.
Yeah.
And I would start with that because people will connect to someone's story faster than they do a bullet point of you have less erosion. Like,
Yeah.
how does erosion help me? Like, I don't even know I'm going to have erosion from the customer's point of view. Where if you can say, hey, Sally had water running down and clearing out half of her ravine, and we did this and mulched that, and by providing this solution, she receives XYZ benefits. And then, hey, Bob had this problem. This is how we solved it. George had this problem. This is how we solved it. People start reading that. They're like, oh, maybe land clearing's for me too.
Yeah.
So I would focus more on individual results of projects on your website than I would trying to explain what land clearing is and mulching is.
Yeah. I think that's a really good idea. Tell a story instead of just telling them what we do.
Yeah, we forget, man. Life is storytelling. Everything we do with everybody we interact with is a story. And we stop telling stories as soon as we start looking at a computer screen trying to figure out how to generate money.
Yep.
And we just got to remind ourselves to keep telling stories. Well, Dustin, this has been a really insightful conversation. I've enjoyed it immensely. Congratulations for having an idea, turning it into reality, and the focus to keep growing it. Maybe it's not a rare trait in your generation in today's terms, but when I was 25, it was not even close to my radar being what I wanted to do. So keep doing what you're doing and never stop asking for help, and make sure you have a mentor in your area for different areas of life and business.
Yeah.
So, well, folks, thank you for listening to another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. If you have not already, make sure you hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe and notification in the bottom corner as well. And if you are in the market for some skid steer attachments, we know a company. It's called Skid Steer Nation. We only partner with family-owned American manufacturers that make high quality products, and they have a higher value on quality than profits, to repeat myself again. But we've checked their work. We understand what they're making. We know their customer service. We have done the homework for you. We guarantee that the product that you receive from these companies will meet and probably exceed your expectations. So instead of buying from those large corporate companies that just look at you as an invoice number, buy from small family manufacturers that care about you and your business. Visit us at skidsteernation.com.